Welcome to the Alternative Dog Moms Podcast. I'm Kimberly Gauthier, creator of Keep the Tail Wagging. I've been blogging about raw feeding, pet wellness, and life as a crazy dog mom for more than 10 years. I've seen massive improvements in my dog's health since I began raising my dogs naturally, and I'm passionate about sharing my experience to help other pet parents.
I'm Erin Scott from the Believe in Dog podcast. For more than 10 years, I've been researching and learning everything I can about healing cancer, allergies, autoimmune, and mystery illnesses in both my dogs and myself. And I can't wait to share with you everything I've learned in case it could help you too. As the Alternative Dog Moms, Kimberly and I are bringing you all the latest dog health news that we're following and the brilliant people we're meeting along the way. Now let's get started. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, Erin.
You know that I have a hill I will die on. And that hill is about dogs having CCL tears and not needing surgeries. And our guest today is going to tell us all about that because she actually wrote the book for pet parents by a pet parent on all of the different healing modalities that you can do and actually heal your dog's CCL tears. And we'll even probably talk about why these are so common in dogs. I'm in this pit bull, rescue pit bull group, and it seems like every other dog has either a CCL tear or skin allergies, and I just shake my head. But anyway, we are here today with Jennifer Carter. She has written the book, The Unplanned Obstacle. And we are going to dive into this because Jennifer has worked in the pet nutrition field. She's a certified canine nutritionist. She's also certified in dog sports and nose work, which you know is my new passion. And we're going to dive into all the things. So Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I'm excited about this. It's one thing I can talk about is nutrition and nose work, and now lately this whole CCL thing. So I'm your girl for this.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I downloaded the book. I want to dive into it because I actually had a dog with a partial CCL tear 100 years ago, and Sydney, and I chose
I remember Sydney.
Yep. And I chose to allow that to heal naturally. I think I was fortunate because I had a veterinarian that wasn't a holistic veterinarian, but her thought was that it was such a minor tear that she was like, let's see how this does.
That's outstanding.
And so it gave me an opportunity to just basically work with Sydney at home, and it healed on its own. But I always thought that it was because it was a partial tear, that if it had been a full tear, there's no other thing but surgery. So I'm really excited to talk to you.
So I also had my old gal, Kahlua. She was one of our original dogs, and she had a full tear. And this is where I feel like I became an alternative dog mom because all of the doctors we were going to, the vet's like, oh, they need the TPLO surgery. You go to a surgeon, it's like one of those things, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Correct.
So finally, I made my way to a rehab veterinary center that does a lot of cutting edge things in the veterinary orthopedic world. And so I was fortunate that they were only like maybe a half an hour drive from me. And so that was how we got connected. And Kahlua was actually part of a clinical study on knee braces for healing CCL tears. So I'll even put that in the link for everybody. She is the pit bull terrier that they refer to in the study.
Awesome.
And so I just have to pat myself on the back a little bit, I got to tell you, because this was like 15 years ago. It was in 2011. And I didn't know anything. I think we were still feeding kibble at that time. But this was where I feel like I started my fork in the road of like, oh, there's other things out there. And I was really proud when I looked through because, my God, you're so thorough. I mean, at one point, there's like a list of over 20 different like physical healing modalities, and I was like, oh, we did some of these, and there's so many products on the market now that weren't on the market 15 years ago, but we were still able to find some, some of these different, healing nutrients and nutraceuticals and things. And I'm like, I'm just so proud that in our first like attempt, like we did pretty good. And
yeah, you trusted your instincts. Sometimes that's just being observant, and trusting your instincts is the leg up, It's when you ignore those, when you don't trust your gut, that the decisions start to get hard, right? Because it was very difficult for me to separate. So Luce is my heart dog. And it was very difficult when the injury happened to separate the emotional part of it, which is the mom that wanted to do the right thing by her, make all the right decisions, to take away the pain, all those feelings about disappointment, about what she can't do versus what she can do. Like, that's just natural human response to crisis, right? Match that up against the scientist in me, who is now, that other hat that says, okay, there's got to be a way through. And I think I'm smart enough to find it. So how do I start that process? And how do I separate that emotion from the the healer part of me? And I wrestled with that. It was difficult because the decisions I was making was on my dog. It wasn't on someone else's dog. It's easier. You're less emotionally tangled when you're helping someone else's dog.
And so you guys were also just really active. Like, can you tell us about some of the
Yeah.
dog sports and things? And like, so why, I mean, any pet parent is terrified when their dog starts limping, but when a lot of your life is built around being active with your dog,
Yes.
it's a whole other.
So, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. So Luce is an athlete. She's beyond the stay-at-home dog that sits on the couch that, gets carried in a bag or, goes to the store to Home Depot every now and again, like she she and I were running 15 miles a week at a minimum. So we were competing in the sport of canicross, which is cross-country running for your dog. So you're hooked to your dog is pulling you, you're attached to each other, and you work as a team to conquer distances like 5Ks and 10Ks. This is usually on trail. And so there's obstacles, there's roots, there's leaves, there's, environmental obstacles. Then we are also heavily competing in obstacle course races. So that is, some of them were more aggressive than others. And we traveled around the country and we competed as a team in those. And that requires not only the 5K distance, sometimes longer, but also has somewhere between 40 and 70 naturally and man-made obstacles. That could be water, it could be tires, it could be mountainous region, mud, it could be a lot of things. So, as you would imagine, we were running over 15 miles a week in order to be fit and in order to have the strength and the core for both of us to be in the same space, right? We had been competing for years. Luce is 9 now. When the injury happened, she was 8, so it was last year. And, her weight, her endurance. So it's much different than your dog running in your front yard in short spurts. This is endurance training. So a 5K for a dog is a long way. The average mushing race is usually a mile, mile and a half or 2. So you're doing a, 3.2, run that's constant. Your dog has to be in shape. Otherwise, the dog's going to have trouble, right? Um, the day of the injury, she was not competing. She was doing what she has done for the last 8 years, running up and down the fence line, screaming at the mailman. So my neighbors, they drive their golf carts, the mailman drives down, they all know her. She's so fast. She runs along the fence line. She's worn a path along the fence line, and she has beaten them most of the time. They clocked her, one of my neighbors clocked her at 25 miles an hour running the fence line.
Wow.
So this day she was doing what she normally does, no different. And I was up on the deck and just watching her out of the corner of my eye to, the excitement of running. And she came up in the middle of the yard and she was lame.
It's the worst feeling in the world.
It was the worst. I ran down the stairs as fast as I could. I didn't know. I mean, we're talking first aid in the beginning, right? Because I don't know if she's cut a paw. I don't know if she's hooked her nail on something or she twisted a knee or it's her hip or I don't know what it is. So I had to descend upon her in order to figure out what's even, happening right now. Yeah.
And so it sounds like from your book, you did, what we do. We go to our regular vet and they're like, oh, you need surgery. And you even say they call TPLOs like the gold standard of surgery of treatments for this
all
injury.
marketing. It's in the brochure of TPLO, the gold standard. It's lovely. It's yeah. I mean, listen, my regular vet that we've gone to all the time, he did surgery on my little Yorkshire Terrier who took both of her knees out. She was like a Belgian Malinois, a Yorkie body. She wasn't kind to herself. Um, they were successful surgeries. She lived a quality life. You'd think I would have learned a lot through those, but I did and I didn't, right? Because she was 8 pounds. So different scenario, not athletic in the same way. We went right away because I was afraid there was a fracture, to be honest. I was afraid that, and we were on a Friday afternoon, and I don't know about the rest of the pet parents out there, but it starts to get expensive when you start seeing vets in the emergency hospital Saturdays and Sundays. So I try to avoid that and at least eliminate the variable of this is going to get worse in the way of a fracture and it's going to swell and, something really bad's going to happen on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? So I eliminated that variable that there wasn't a fracture. My regular vet that I see was not on site on that Friday afternoon. I saw another vet in the practice. So she eliminated that fear for me. Is this life or death? Is this what is happening to my dog? We did hone in on the fact it was the knee, but I really felt comfortable waiting until that next Monday when my actual family vet came back. He's a very smart man and he's very good in this space and I trust his opinion. So I waited until Monday. He did his own radiographs and I mean, some really great things came out of that initial visit, which was I saw that she had no arthritis in her hips or her knees. So that was good news. We also eliminated the fact that there was a tumor of some sort or something else that caused the ligament to tear, which is a real thing. So it's important to see your vet. It's important to do first aid on your dog. It's important not to make assumptions that are outside of your swim lane. Right? So those things were good news. But now the bad news was that he couldn't tell if it was a full CCL tear or a partial one. Hard to see that in a radiograph. He did feel very strong about her, because of her athleticism, that she would 100% need to see a surgeon. Now, I'd never been to a board surgeon before. Knock on wood, thank goodness, right? Like you don't want to be making partners with board surgeons on a regular basis. That means you're shelling out a lot of money. And that's where my analysis paralysis began. Like I felt, I am inundated in the pet world because of what I do for a living. The average pet parent is not. And so when this made me feel overwhelmed and scared and unsure, I could only imagine what the average pet parent was feeling in that moment. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I felt that no matter how this thing turned out, that Luce was about to teach me a whole bunch of stuff. And if I didn't journal it and I didn't share my experience with other people, any blessings that I got out of this in the way of knowledge would be wasted. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you why I felt like that. I just had this really strong drive to journal my experience. And so I started doing that, taking pictures. I actually have video that I took on the day of her injury so that I could, in case she got better and the vet couldn't see that how she was limping, that I could show him that.
Yeah,
right?
That's so smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned a lot of lessons. I made a lot of good decisions. I won't lie to you. Not everything was a success. Okay. So my book does go into the book I ended up writing, which was my journal turned into something helpful for the average pet parent who's sitting on the threshold of where I was. I shared openly and honestly things that worked, things that didn't work. Some of it's funny now, wasn't so funny then. So I had heart failure then, but funny now, looking back at it, like I can laugh. It was too soon for a while, but now it's okay.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, you're like, huh, what just happened? So, I tried to be really transparent. Not everything is a win, but listen, I felt like I was called up to the big leagues. I felt like everything I ever learned about dogs all of a sudden mattered in this situation. So I also, I won't lie to you, I felt there were moments where I had imposter syndrome, like bad, like, wow, maybe I don't know what I think I know. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I'm overextended. Maybe I'm not smart enough. It happens to us all.
Yeah.
So when it happened to us, my dog was a little older and she was more of a couch potato dog. And when you learn about it's a pretty brutal surgery, the TPLO. I mean, they break their leg, they're putting titanium plates in. And Kahlua was somewhat of an anxious dog, and she had a history of if you put her in a crate, that she would fight to the point where she bloodied her face trying to get out of it. And so the thought of having her on some kind of crate rest or something like this and not being able to be with our other dog who they were so bonded and such BFFs, that was a big consideration for us of I can't put this dog through something like this. And had me looking in this other direction. Plus, I had known somebody else who had just gone through 2 TPLOs, one on each side with their dog. And
Yep.
then immediately, within a year after the second surgery, their dog developed terminal cancer and died. And she was really convinced that there was a connection with the surgeries and these implants and things. And again, this is going back 15 years. So there wasn't as much, research around this. And now there is a little bit of a connection with that you even touch on in the book. And so those were some of the factors that influenced us, especially with your dog being so active. What were some of the factors that made you decide not to pursue the surgery?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not anti-surgery. I would have done what was necessary for my dog if her quality of life demanded that, right? The hesitancy came with they don't even do surgery on humans that quickly, right? So some red flags went up for me when everybody was overeager. Like I literally called a board surgeon and he was like, we have a cancellation, bring your dog in day after tomorrow. I'm like, you haven't even seen the radiographs yet. Like, you don't know anything about my dog. You haven't even looked at my dog. I don't want this to be an exploratory surgery. What is this? Like, I would like to create an appointment, come in, have you actually look at my dog, diagnose the situation, and tell me which of the procedures that are available would be best for my dog. And I would like that from the board surgeon's point of view, please. You're the knowledgeable one. And they said to me, if you don't want to do TPLO, then you shouldn't come here.
Wow.
Red flag. So I was trying to equate this to what I would do if this was me, if this was my leg, right? Would I go see a surgeon and get on the chopping block without them having actually looked at me? No. Okay. So let's take a step back, right? The other thing is Luce was the right weight. She was the perfect weight for herself. She was not obese, which is sometimes the problem. Okay. As we saw in the radiographs, she did not have aggressive arthritis in her hips or her knees, so she was clean. Okay. She was an active, athletic dog at the top of her game. So those things alone were like plus columns. Okay, so listen, she has everything going for her. Why are we rushing? And then the next thing that happened was they said to me, and if you don't do this in the next week or so, the arthritis will become so bad she will not be a candidate for surgery. Well, that's just not true. And it's fear-mongering because you have an average pet parent who thinks my dog is in terrible danger. Let me just clear this up for all the pet parents out there. This is not a life or death injury. You can take a beat. You can figure out what's best for the dog in front of you. And don't let anybody tell you that there's some reason to charge for the finish line when there isn't that urgency. Even if the dog has arthritis, they're not going to become riddled with arthritis in a week where to the point where they can't be looked at and fixed. Come on, folks. So that was another red flag. So on one hand, I'm looking at the candid of dog that I have in front of me. And on the other hand, I'm looking at what you said when we started this conversation. It's an aggressive surgery. They cut the tibia. They change the angle. The gait is changed forever. The body's mechanics are changed forever. So what I tell people is, you know what my grandmother used to tell me? Measure twice, cut once. So this was me measuring twice. Why wouldn't I try conservative management of the injury until the point where the rehab vet said to me, this is not working. Your dog is in pain. We need to find another route. Why wouldn't I try that first? Why would I just send my dog off to be permanently changed forever, not to mention put under anesthesia, not to mention introducing stainless steel plates that are not a part of the body's makeup, that who knows what is causal, who knows? Listen, Luce is a hound mix. She's made up of 7 dogs. I don't know where she came from. I don't know if we're going to be poking the dragon on osteosarcoma. I don't know. Do I want to? Absolutely not. So if I don't have to, then why would I choose that first? So here's the timeline, right? Of what are you going to do first, second, third, and what is the ultimate goal, and what is the outcomes you don't want, and what are the outcomes you do want, right? And that's where analysis paralysis is easily to set in, because when you start going online and you start researching about what are your options, it's scary. Just like you said in the beginning, it is really scary what they tell you. And of course, it's the worst case scenarios online, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody's coming on there saying, you hacked the crap out of my dog. I can't believe this happened. My dog died. This because of this. Of course. And I won't lie to you. There's thousands of TPLO surgeries that are successful every single year, and the dogs are okay. Right? But still, I have to think about the dog that's sitting right in front of me.
So at the end of well, first, I want to know, what was the rehab like, and how does the leg look today? Like, because the tendon
Yeah.
didn't grow back.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So tendons and ligaments do not regrow, right? There's a chance if it's a partial tear that you might get some calcification in that area, and it's stronger because you still have half a tendon that's attached, right? But yes, you're absolutely right, Kimberly. They do not grow back. What happens is there is scar tissue that is laid down in the leg, and that scar tissue helps to stabilize the knee, right? So that is how that, in quote, healing process occurs. So how the rehab went was, I won't lie to you, I'll be right up front and transparent. It's not cheaper. It's not cheaper, folks. It's not less time consuming. This is definitely a more committed way to go. But this is the difference of, even if you have surgery, the rehab is the same. And if you're not doing rehab after surgery, you're doing your dog a disservice. If you're not looking at nutrition throughout this entire process, you're doing your dog a disservice no matter which way you go. Okay? So the rehab, I set out outcomes for myself. I wanted to manage her weight while she was not athletic anymore, because it's easy for a spayed female mixed dog to gain weight.
Yeah.
Easy. And she's 30 something pounds. So, 5 pounds on a 30-pound dog is a big deal. I wanted to keep her mobile. The one thing they don't tell you is that ligaments don't heal if they're immobilized. So your dog has to move. They cannot be crated for 6 months because you want to know why. Your dog's other leg has a bunch of ligaments in it. Your dog's body has a bunch of ligaments in it. And you cannot immobilize just the leg without immobilizing the whole dog. I wanted to take a look at her nutrition up close and personal. And I wanted to make sure that we were feeding appropriately for the injury. Okay, for healing. Because a healing diet requires different calories, different nutrients than a maintenance diet of a dog that's just humming along. Okay, now you need the dog to be able to pull calories to heal without robbing the body of what they need to live. You can't have the dog in deficit at any time. Okay, and you can't have the dog gaining weight. And the other outcome was that I wanted her to return to athletics. I didn't want her to have a lesser life if she didn't have to. So I was trying to be very proactive in my mind. And this was a chess game, Kimberly. What I do today is going to affect that 2 days from now. What I'm going to do here, this decision is going to affect that decision. It's exhausting. I won't lie to you. Being a full-time caretaker is exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
And at the same time, you have to take care of yourself. So just to give you an idea, I have 20 steps that lead to my house. I'm on the second floor of a house. That's where the living space is in my home. A lot of people will move downstairs or they'll move to the floor. I wanted to limit our environmental life changes to a minimum because it's not sustainable. You can't live away from your spouse for what could be a year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I carried my dog up and down those 20 stairs 4 or 5 times a day while she was not able to do stairs. The therapy was amazing. I did both Western approaches and I did Eastern approaches. I was open-minded across the board to anything that might help her. And I'll be honest with you, in my book, I tell you, it gets a little, I'll just give you an example. Color therapy. Everybody laughed at me. They're like, Jen has lost her mind. But there's a whole study on color therapy that when you look at certain colors, it elicits healing or not healing or nothing, right? So green happens to be in color therapy a color of healing. So when I did a brace for her, because we did a brace, I had the brace done in green. If she's got to look at it every day, well, and if there's anything to color therapy, which it couldn't hurt, right? Well, then nothing's off limits, right? Now, I say that in the sense that if you were to follow every single thing I did in the book, every single therapy, every single nutritional supplement, every way I fed to the letter, would you get the exact same result in your dog? I don't know. Maybe not, because each dog's an individual. Each circumstance is an individual. This is a highly individualized injury, right? Even though it's the most popular one out there. To fast forward for you to get to the end of your question, Luce, we did some things really right because there's this thing called a buttress that you can feel in the leg. When a knee is injured, when scar tissue is laid down, it makes this little knot at the leg. And because of the way that we moved her, she was in the underwater treadmill the Monday after her injury. She was literally walking on that leg in the underwater treadmill under a rehab veterinarian's purview. It wasn't just me. That buttress is so small, you can hardly even feel it because her scar tissue laid itself down in such a beautiful pattern. And I talk about that in the book, and I have some visuals so that people can better understand what I'm talking about. You don't want everything to heal chaotically like this. You don't want it because that makes this big knot and it limits mobility. So I'm happy to report. Now, who knew how this was going to turn out? Because you can't look 12 months in advance. We could have ended up in surgery anyway. I could have had that ending of a book. Fortunately, that's not what happened. She and I have been traveling all over the country and into Canada, and we've been actively competing in canine obstacle course races. She is 100% back to competing. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't let her give 150%. I let her give 85, 90% because I want her to be able to do this for as long as possible.
How old is she?
She's 9 now.
Okay.
So her weight is good. The one thing that I will throw out there to people is the lesson I learned. If you can get a baseline on your dog now before they're injured on so many different things, it'll really help you when you need it to compare to. And I'll throw out something very specific. Even measuring the circumference of the leg muscles to see if they're equal on both legs now when your dog is not injured, it's super important because when we were in rehab, her leg muscles were uneven. As you know, as soon as you stop exercising, the hurt leg started to atrophy. But I never knew whether her legs were ever even because I didn't measure it. So I highly recommend, now her legs are even because I'm purposeful about it, but I highly recommend baselines are really helpful, and pre-injury baselines are super helpful.
Yeah, that's a great tip because that's something you never think about until you're in the moment.
Yeah, I didn't have that number, so I didn't know. When they asked me, they look even, but she's got fur. It's hard to see. Are they actually even? Because one of the things that I really focused on was making sure that whatever caused the degeneration in the tendon or ligament to begin with, so that it tore, I didn't want that to happen in other parts of her body.
Yeah.
So it flipped me over to being proactive because I had a good leg I had to protect. And I'm also happy to say, Kimberly, that, knock on wood, and I'm going to use my own head, it's been 2 years now since the injury, and her good leg is solid.
Nice.
So, research shows that 2 years after TPLO, whether you do conservative management or TPLO, 2-year mark after both of those, if you do rehab properly, the arthritis and everything is in the same exact space. There's no advantage at that point. There's only disadvantages. So that's what I kept in the back of my mind going forward. I know she's going to get arthritis. We all do. She's 9. But it kept me from cutting my dog's tibia and her having to reject plates, infection, having a gait that is off and affecting her other limbs in the front, her good leg on the opposite side, the left one, and ultimately osteosarcoma, who, nobody wants to admit could be a very, very, very terrible way to go out of this world.
And there's a lot of research also showing that once they tear one side, they're so much more
50%.
likely. Yeah.
50% chance is what the board surgeons will tell you. And they tell you, there's been surgeons that told me, you should do them both now.
Yeah. I've heard that too.
Before the other one tears.
Like a preventive. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Bilateral before that other one tears. And people do it.
Yeah.
My mind is blown by that right now.
Yeah.
People do it.
Yeah,
I don't even,
astounding.
how do you get talked into that?
There's so many things we don't question.
Yeah.
We just, and especially when you're in, I see it goes with any type of serious injury or disease. You're emotionally kind of spent because you're not only trying to research as quickly as possible and catch up on decades of information to figure out what you need to do with your dog. You're looking at what other people are doing and what other people are saying. And it's like all around the world of experiences. So half people are telling you, don't ever do it. You can do this naturally. While the other half of the people are like, no, I just did this. It was perfectly fine.
And you have people like, well, you're not a vet.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's frightening. And so when you sit down with a veterinarian, you're spent. And it's like
and you want to do the right thing.
Yeah. And you're just like, well, they're the expert, so I'll go ahead and do it. And it's very scary to step out, especially in the face of that expertise, and say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something different.
And believe me, I had those same emotions. I was scared for her. I was scared for me. I thought it might be over. Our competing together might be over. It was hard. It was hard to fly in the face of the pressure. But I will tell you that, listen, if you can find a rehab vet before you make a final decision and get a second opinion, they deal with this injury all the time. If you can find an equine rehab vet, you're even better off, because horses experience this injury even more often than dogs. And they are in a position to really tell you where your dog is in the successful game. This is why I try to tell people, listen, I'm not a vet. I'm not trying to tell you if you do A through Z, you're going to have the same outcome. What I'm sharing here is slow down, take a deep breath, do your research, try something least invasive before you go to the most invasive. And you can never go wrong with this kind of process. You just can't, because at least at the end of the day, you can say, I've learned what I needed to learn. I'm making an informed decision. I feel good about my decision. And now we're going to go forward, right? I hope that my book helps people not get caught up in not making a decision at all, because there is that third path, which is do nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a dog that's lame for the rest of their life. They'll never leave the ground. They'll never jump. They'll never run because they have this disability now, right? So don't do nothing, but be pragmatic. Don't feel pressure. Don't feel bullied. Don't feel fear. It's going to be okay. You're going to make, your dog the best. So trust your gut, trust your thought process. And I can't stress enough. I don't care what you're feeding. I don't care what it is, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not here to tell you to feed a certain way or you're not going to be successful. What I'm saying is, when your dog is healing, you need to rethink it. Even if it's temporary, if you can, live within your means, do the best you can, but you need to rethink it, because what is going in the mouth is feeding the body's healing process. And if that's not good, or super high in carbohydrates, which breaks down to sugar, which then feeds inflammation. Inflammation feeds pain. You could avoid having to give your dog, this is what I did not want for Luce. I read every day on these online chat rooms that there are dogs on gabapentin, trazodone, carprofen for years.
Yeah.
You're going to learn in my book that these inhibit healing. So you're working against yourself. If the doctor's giving you carprofen for an anti-inflammatory to manage pain, right? To keep that inflammation down, feeding the inflammation through their mouth in the way of food only throws away your money.
Yeah.
So I tell people, work smart, not hard, even if it's temporary. 6 months. If you could feed your dog the low carb diet that they need with fresh foods, looking at herbs, looking at everything you can, Chinese herbs, you'll pay less in the end.
Yeah.
You'll be making an investment in your dog. It's healing. It's important.
So why do you think it is that, total left turn,
Yeah.
we are seeing so many dogs develop these? Because I know I've heard, is it manganese, where a lot of people feel like there's a manganese deficiency in a lot of diets, which is strange because, these diets are supposed to be complete and balanced. So why is there a deficiency?
Well, it's about the ability of the dog to take up those things, right? Some of these diets are full of synthetic vitamins, and some dogs don't take up synthetic vitamins like they do from whole foods. So there could be a struggle there. Even though there's plenty in the food, what your dog is actually getting may not be applicable to their system. So how do you know that, right? Um, Unless you're doing some wellness testing that's really keeping track of that sort of thing. Blood work by the time something shows up as a deficiency in blood work, your dog's
Yeah.
in trouble.
Yeah.
It's in trouble. Um, but there are people out there that do hair tissue mineral analysis tests, and they kind of look at that and they keep their eye on it, which is good. That's proactive, right? Not reactive. Don't wait till your dog gets hurt and then figure out what happened. Let's make it so it never happens. The injury is super prevalent. I think I, you had brought up, Erin, in the pity world, unfortunately, their gait is so funky. Um, the way they walk, they have this funny wiggly butt thing that just listen, it's a pity right when you see it because they're so silly looking when they walk, but it works to their disadvantage because their gait is weird and pressure is being put on the knee in different ways. And dogs are obese. I think that's a huge part of the problem. Dogs are just literally not using their body. And when you don't use something, it lets you down, right? Things get dust bunnies. And then all of a sudden they use their body in some way. And next thing you know, dust bunnies are showing themselves. Usually, for the most part, it's very little number that is traumatic, hit by car kind of traumatic. And that makes sense. Or falls or, something like that, which makes sense. Most of it is degenerative. There are more people adopting mixed dogs than ever now. We don't know what their lineage is. We don't know what their parents ate. We don't know if they were even vaginally birthed. We don't even know if they have the bacteria they need in their gut. All of these things play into chronic inflammation in the body, which starts to break down tissues. And if you're not supporting that, if you don't know, then over time, right? Next thing you know, as they get older, the body starts to creak. Things don't work well. Things become fragile. Listen, this injury happened to Luce at 8. She'd been running for so long. She's a mixed dog. How do I know that degeneration wasn't happening? That was the red flag of why I had to protect the other parts of her body, because this could be systemic for all I know, right? So, yeah, I think this injury is the top injury according to research, that dogs are just left. And I don't remember growing up. I had dogs. I don't remember them tearing CCLs. I don't remember any of that. And those dogs, who knows what everyone's dogs ate back then? Oh my goodness, right? Like whatever, whenever.
Yeah, I know that's just it is like, because I grew up with dogs. My dad raised dogs, but our dogs were also always outside with us, touching dirt.
Yep.
They ate, I mean, they had kibble, but they also ate our food. They just, everything was
Plants and
completely different back then.
yeah,
Whereas,
hunting squirrels and stuff like that. Dogs find a way to get what they need if they have access to it. But imagine you live in a big city.
yep,
And those dogs are on concrete all the time, pounding those knees, running on pavement, not grass, not trails. As those dogs, listen, it's a shame because a lot of the things I read is about young dogs that are doing it and that they're TPLO candidates because they're young and they have a whole life ahead of them and all that. And it's a double-edged sword. It's hard to decide.
yeah,
Um, but the injury is there and it's real. And I tried to set up the book so that even if you don't have an injury, there's something in there that can help you be proactive in your thinking. If you already had the surgery and you're trying to make life comfortable for a dog that's struggling, there's something in there. Um, I tried to, I, I tried to not make it just about an orthopedic injury that is only good under this one circumstance and that the information is not good otherwise. I mean, there's stuff about proactive training in there in a whole chapter about what to train. You train for the field before you end up in the field. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't trained Luce to be able to be carried for a dog carry over a telephone pole over water in an obstacle course race, she never would have let me carry her up and down 20 stairs for 8 months. Mm-hmm. You know? So there's some power in taking a puppy that you've just gotten and making sure you can touch them everywhere and make sure other people can touch them everywhere and make sure that they can handle sensory things like having ultrasound gel put on them without freaking out or laying on their side on a table. Mm-hmm. Little things like that make life less stressful so that if they're hurt, they're less stressed in that moment because they trust you. You have a bond with your dog. I mean, this book is about having a relationship with your dog. This book is not managing dog behavior. This is about really understanding what it takes to connect.
So one of the things that's been a hot topic on our podcast is the rise of canine nutritionists. And you actually have 2 master's degrees. You've worked in the industry for a long time. You're working on a PhD.
Yeah.
You know, can you talk to us some about your background in canine nutrition and then also how you address the nutrition in the healing process?
Sure. So I have everything starting in my bachelor's degree is animal science and biology. So I actually was studying to be a vet early in life, and then I actually worked for a vet and I realized that I might be sad a lot. So I changed my mind that was the way that I wanted to work with dogs. My working with dogs was kind of a hobby. It was on the side, and I had a job like everyone else that routed money to live and to do all those things so that my dog could have a good life. I finally got to a certain age where I decided that I really wanted to focus on dogs and I wanted that to be my full-time job. And that's really when I sort of jumped into the industry and actually used my academic background. Otherwise, I just paid a lot of money for stuff and then never actually used it. A lot of people out there did that. And I still, even though I have academic background and I've learned all of those things, right? I still stay current by taking other courses that people put together that are legitimate. It's easy for me, but I like to keep my finger on the pulse of changes, new research. Since I'm not actively in a vet school where I am being inundated with research and the latest things, I have to find a way to keep up with that, right? So that I can speak intelligently to other people about, hey, that's been disproven actually, or they're really not looking at that anymore. Look at pancreatitis, for example. Everybody used to think pancreatitis was all about fat. It's not. It's about carbohydrates. Back in the day, it was all about fat. So if I stayed stuck back in the day, I would be telling people the wrong information. But now, because I keep up and I enjoy it, not everybody does. I'll tell you, it's a rabbit hole. Nobody wants to be down with me, but it's okay. I enjoy it. I try to do the best I can to share information with people as intelligently as I can. And I have the academics, I have ongoing research and continuing education in that space. And then I have anecdotal and observational information because unfortunately, everyone I know is dogs having trouble. So I get to learn all the time. The opportunity presents itself all the time. I'm really fun at parties. My dog's had diarrhea. Can I get another beer? Can we talk about this another time? Yeah, it's fun. I'm fun at parties. I enjoy it and it's my way. I feel that it's the blessings that I have been presented with. And if I don't share those blessings and pay it forward, then that information and knowledge is wasted on me. I enjoy learning, so it's easy for me. I'm like a sponge. I enjoy learning the things that I don't agree with as much as the things that I do agree with. And I try to understand where my biases come from. Somebody will say something and I'll say, wow, I have a strong response to that. Why? Yeah. Why? Where did I learn that response? Is it an actual response? Is it a learned response? maybe I need to peel the onion back on why I feel so visceral about it. And then I may decide at the end of it that I actually still agree with my own decision, or it changes my mind, which I like that challenge. Change my mind. Do it. Please. I would like to expand and learn. So I'm very fortunate. So here I have all this knowledge about nutrition, right? Here my dog's hurt, and I'm about to look at how I'm going to change her diet. And honestly, I was coming off a diet that was like 25% carbs, still not a lot of carbs, still too many carbs. I wanted her to be on a diet that was 2 to 3% carbs. And I wanted those carbs to not be starches. I wanted them to be vegetable matter or fruit matter, something like that. Everything that I did in the way of nutrition, I call it adaptive nutrition because it's exactly what it is. I'm adapting the way I feed based on the information that I have about this dog and what the outcomes I want to have. And as I said earlier, I really wanted to manage inflammation. So that meant low carbs, getting energy from fat and protein. I wanted vegetables that built up and provided whole food vitamins and minerals instead of me having to use anything synthetic. Synthetic vitamins is going to feed into liver productivity and filtering, pancreas work, and her body's already tired. It's fighting every day to heal. So I was trying to really manage that organ work all the time, And that's another thing for carbs. The pancreas is going to be trying to produce amylase to break down carbohydrates. And I had to be careful because I didn't want that pancreas chugging along all the time. Or the liver, right? Liver, gallbladder, pancreas, those three things work together. The next thing is I wanted to then provide supplements to the diet that were purposeful. So I don't give supplements indefinitely. It has a purpose. Then you have to take a break and you have to see what the new normal is. And then you shuck and jive, right? This is such an agile process. Okay. This is not linear. This is agile. You try something, you get feedback from the dog, and then you adapt based on what you observe and you learn. So this is not a set it and forget it in any way, shape, or form. So I wanted a base of a whole food diet. I rotate between 3 diets. They're all frozen raw. And I do it very purposefully. And I did talk about in the book some unintended consequences that happened from managing inflammation for the injury that actually managed other inflammation within the body and righted some things that were not right.
Oh, her vitamin D, right?
Yeah, the vitamin D was the thing. Unintended consequence. So in changing the diet and healing inflammation and keeping that low, whatever inflammation or blockage that was happening from her uptake of vitamin D, it fixed itself, right? The body knows what to do. You just have to create the environment. So that's what I was doing. I was creating that healing environment using nutrition, and stuff started to fall into place. The body was starting to be optimal. And I love that because that's the feedback that you get. And I will say you only get that through testing. You got to follow up. When you do microbiome testing, you got to do it before, you got to do it after. You got to see if what you're doing is working, right? You need help. You need feedback as much as you can get. And I really became an extremely manipulative person in the way of food. I did. So when somebody says, Jennifer's manipulative, I'll say gladly. I am, because I used food to my advantage. I used it to my dog's advantage. I really played the game of chess. And anyone can do this. Anyone can. You can use food, even for your person, to your advantage. The gut has to be healthy. When you're talking inflammation, the gut has to be healthy. You cannot pretend, I wonder, the gut has to be healthy. You have to get in there. You have to know what's going on. You have to create balance.
Yeah, it was exciting to see some of the supplements that you mentioned. Like, we've had them on our podcast because we've
Yeah.
talked to Jope and we've talked to Maya.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Christine.
yeah, we've talked to the Marsdens.
Love.
So anyway, it was very exciting to see, like, that we're on the right track with our guests.
Well, and it's good because your guests are coming on and they're learning. That's why I listen, I told people the names of what I used because if you throw out to somebody, go out and get yourself a joint supplement, what that means to me and what that means to the two of you are probably completely different, maybe. And I'm not talking about walking into Walmart and buying a joint supplement. I'm talking about looking for specific ingredients that are going to have a healthy impact. That's why I broke out all the ingredients because, listen, I'm not telling you if you don't use Joe, it's not going to work. I'm saying the ingredients in Joe are impactful. If you can find those ingredients in a good, ethically sourced supplement, go for it. But I tried to break down why I used what I did and what I was trying to get out of it. I didn't just, one of the biggest mistakes people make with supplementation is they think more is better and they go to a supplement and what happens is this supplement has 50 ingredients. This supplement has another 20 ingredients. This one has 15 ingredients. And at the end of the day, if you don't know that all three of those supplements have over 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C, it may be too much for your dog. You don't need a joint supplement with a bunch of synthetic vitamins in it. You need a joint supplement that's simple with only the ingredients that you're looking to reach outcomes with and nothing more. Just because it has more crap in there doesn't make it a better supplement, but when you don't know, right? So then you have a diet that's got synthetic vitamins. You've got 4 supplements you're using that all have the same synthetic vitamins. Now you could be working the liver of your dog way, way, way too hard. What happens with a tired liver? Inflammation. So now you're creating a dog on fire, right? A dog that's just gone from a small garbage can fire to a dumpster fire by accident, well-meaning, just by accident.
Yeah.
And so that's the thoughtfulness that has to go into this finite little game of chess, right? And I'm glad that you have these people on here. I ask them the hard questions. I want to know. I want to know third-party testing. I want to know where are you sourcing your ingredients because I don't want to introduce anything that's going to create a dumpster fire in my dog by accident. So I use some way out stuff. She's still on Chinese herbs now. She may always be on tendon and ligament, Jintang. She may always be on body sore at some level. We're still doing Adequan shots on a maintenance level. So, like I said, Eastern and Western does not have to be at war with each other, but they do have to be complementary. And you have to know why you're doing it.
And one of the things I wanted to touch on too is if you find out your dog has this kind of injury, I think you said one of the best places to start if you want to get like a real true second opinion is working with a veterinarian who's certified in canine rehab. There's probably a website I can find for that, but that's like a special certification, right? Like you want to go to like
Yes.
somebody that has a special certification.
Yeah, so it's not going to be your family vet, not all the time. It may be somebody that only focuses on rehab. They actually don't do regular medicine for small animals. I have found that 2 of my 3 vets, actually, I lie. All 3 of the 3 vets that I used, 2 of them rehabilitative, one of them's a DVM that is focused on Eastern medicine, so chiropractic, acupuncture, that kind of stuff, Chinese herbs. All of them are equine vets.
Oh,
They all started out as large animal vets and have a very a side thing of canine rehab. So under my circumstance, I highly recommend finding, if you can find an equine vet that also does small animal, I think it's to your advantage.
Wow.
Luce did all her underwater treadmill in a huge equine underwater treadmill. She was the smallest horse they ever saw.
I love
Yep.
that.
And she didn't have a care in the world, you know? You have to find somebody who you feel confident with, who's willing to try this with you, who's willing to be honest with you and not blow smoke either. Because if your dog reaches an impasse where it's not working and it's working against the dog's quality of life, that doctor has to be able to say to you, we need to rethink. You have to be open to that. You can't go in and listen. Failure is not an option. That's just, I don't put any energy toward failure. That's just who I am. When I set out and I made the decision to do conservative management with my dog, I wanted to manifest success. And the only way to manifest success is to be positive, to keep the dog positive, for you to be positive, and the people you're working with on your team. I had 3 rehabilitative vets, and I had a canine massage therapist who worked on my dog. I invested in therapeutic instruments. I use some of them on myself, I won't lie.
Same.
Sometimes when my knee's hurting, I'm like, "Ooh, a little laser wouldn't hurt me
Yeah.
either." And you have to just think to yourself, where do you make your investments so they're smart? Do you partner? How do you talk to a partner? The first person you talk to may not be the right partner. Keep looking. Don't become disheartened. If you don't have somebody near you, there are vets that do. There's still a thing of online appointments. You might be able to at least talk to somebody. Send them all of your medical records for your dog. Let them look at them. Do an ultrasound. Use science and use energy healing. Use whatever information you can get your hands on. Put together a team and go for it. Manifest success.
I love it. Oh, you even touched on iridology because
Yeah, I did. See, I was like, woo. Some people would be like, woo. But I will tell you this. So this is kind of fun. In the unintended consequences, in the iris of the eye, you can see any kind of degeneration of tissue and you can see inflammation. It doesn't diagnose disease. It gives you somewhere to look that the body is struggling. The eyes are truly the windows to the soul, and they have a lot of information that can be offered. There's a picture of my dog's eye in the book. So if you've never seen the iris of a dog's eye up close, this will be enlightening. I watched for inflammation. Inflammation shows up in the eye as white. It looks very white in color. I was watching for inflammation in both the right eye and the left eye. There are parts, the way when you look at the map of the eye, it'll tell you where the leg is. And one of the things that happened was before the injury, I had taken pictures of Luce's eye. After the injury and during the injury, I took pictures of Luce's eyes. And there's a mark there now.
Wow.
Where her knee is on the right eye, not on the left. It's kind of freaky. I mean, right now, there's probably 3 of you are like, oh, come on.
I have my book, and this is just a reminder that I need to go and take new pictures of my dog's eyes and go through the book. I find it fascinating.
It's really fascinating. And I have friends that are like, I'm like, hey, can I take a picture of your eyes? And they're like, no. Like, come on. And they're like, no, I don't want to know. I'm like, come on. What if I don't tell you? All my blue-eyed people, I like to take pictures of their eyes because their eyes show so much. I have brown eyes that they're brown.
Well, that's just it, is that I really believe that science is great. And I love that what we've learned from science. But there is a time that science it's not that it was never here, it just looked differently.
Correct.
And
I agree.
people were able to treat things, like someone had this ailment, they'd go out and pull leaves off of this plant and they knew how to deal with this. And that was a
Right.
time when everyone recognized every plant that was around them. And we've gotten so far away from that. And that is now considered woo-woo. I mean, granted, there are some other things that are like insanely woo-woo. I saw a video on Instagram that was just like that a friend sent to me.
Yes. Some of it is sketch.
That was just like, yeah, that's not it.
Like, I don't think that's a thing.
I know, exactly. It's like, I think we're watching someone getting taken advantage of right now.
Yeah.
But it's like with the herbs and the diet and just basically our body telling us. I mean, I'm always fascinated by videos of TCM practitioners looking at people's tongues
I
and
know.
saying what's going on. And I mean,
Right.
there's tens of thousands of years
I
of
know.
information that many of us are not even aware of. And so
We're open
I think it's
to,
bad.
like, if somebody says it, you know, I look at this, I look at nature. What do we know about the dog? The dog will self-medicate, right? If it has an upset stomach, it eat grass, makes it throw up. If it needs fiber, it'll find something fibrous. If it needs enzymes, right, minerals, it'll eat dirt, right? The dog will try to help itself. Humans are the only ones who reject nature.
Mhm.
Animals everywhere use nature every day, medicinally, for nutrients. We are the only animal that rejects nature and chooses something in the lab.
Yeah.
Over it. Like, I'm not saying that science doesn't have its place, like you. I, I'm a pure scientist by nature. That's my background. I'm a biologist. I'm there. However, you can't ignore
Mhm.
the fact that every other species does not use pharmaceuticals first.
Yeah.
There's something to that, guys. I mean, there's just something to that. You shouldn't have to have your dog be on trazodone for 6 months to a year because they can't run around and they can't be a dog.
Yeah.
It's really dangerous. What happens after that is when they come off trazodone, you have behavioral problems. You have social problems. You've got body functional problems. You can't take everything away from a dog and expect them to still act like a dog, the one you knew prior to taking it all away.
Mhm.
You can't expect that. So we have to be smarter. We have to open ourselves up. And I'm not saying, like you said, Kimberly, don't get taken advantage of. I mean, listen, I wasn't cutting the heads off of chickens and, running in circles or holding one foot up in the air. It wasn't that kind of woo woo. Although there may be some merit to that for all I know. I'm just not very good at it. But I tried within my grasp I don't completely understand homeopathy. I don't claim to. I'm not a homeopath. I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough. I have enough understanding that I know how to apply it and look to see if it's working.
Mhm.
Okay. What I did do very well was lean on the people that were in my life that are very good at those things and ask them for help. And that's what you've got to be, whether you're doing it for your kid or whether you're doing it for your spouse or a family member or the dog or the cat or hamster, whatever. You have to be willing to take in information. And you can reject it.
Yeah.
Listen, no one says you have to take in a piece of information and run with it. You can certainly reject it. But if you're closed off, you're limiting yourself.
100% agree. I mean, there
Yeah,
have been things out there that I've just taken a piece of it. Where
correct.
it's
Me
like
too.
most of it didn't work for me, but this one piece did work, and this is what I'm going to add to the routine with the dogs. And
To follow up on what you just said, Kimberly, at the end of the day, is it not the power of the mind? If you think, if you think wholeheartedly in your heart of hearts that this is working, is that not powerful?
yeah,
Right?
it's important to know that we have options, that there's not only one way of doing it, and to give ourselves permission to try something different than maybe the vet that we have a 10-year relationship with is saying, that it's okay to go get a second opinion. It's okay, to realize that there's other options, that you can put together a whole other treatment plan. And I think sometimes it's like, we need to know that, like, we can give ourselves permission to do that. Even if we're not a vet, you have people in your life that are like, what do you know? You're not a vet. They go to school and they do this. And it's like, there's other options out there. There's other vets out there. Get the second opinion, get the third opinion, and put something together that will work for you and your dog, taking in all of the factors of your lifestyle, your dog's lifestyle, your bandwidth, to do these things. And I just think there's a lot of different options. And I'm so grateful you wrote this book that laid out so many different options for us.
Yeah, it was really, at the end of the day, it's a legacy of sorts, right? Where we had this experience, we made decisions, we ran with it, our choices, and we reached success. And you have to share it. You have to pay that forward. You have to share that. I mean, I'm getting older now, and I think of, ways that I can leave my mark on this world, and helping dogs and healing dogs. If I can reach through the human in some way to help a dog, one dog out there that has a good, successful situation that mirrors maybe what we did. I mean, I feel like I've already won, because Dr. Johnson, who was her primary attendant, she's already changed the way that she approaches this injury in her practice.
Wow.
I've reached through the human somehow, right? We went through it together. And I'm thankful, because that's what we did at the end of the day. And if that's what people remember, hopefully not my 20s, but this is what they remember. um, then yeah, I've taken the blessings that I've had, and I've blossomed into hopefully what I was supposed to. And I'm reaching my potential and helping others reach their potential just by opening up somebody's mind. So, and this is the kind of platform that's really important, because you being willing to even entertain my book and to look at it and say, this is something that's going to help somebody, you're allowing more people to have access to that. And that's all I could ask for. I'm not going to get rich writing books. There's nobody that gets rich writing books. Well, there are, but it's not going to be me. Not writing about CCL injuries, that's for sure. But, I'll hold my little space right here, and hopefully somebody will say to somebody, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Here, this may help.
Yeah.
That's all you can ask for.
And that's what it ultimately it comes to is, someone needed something. Someone had this
Yep.
experience and it's like, oh yeah, I remember I just heard, listened to a podcast or
Right.
read a book or, saw something that came through on social media and
Right.
spreads that over. I mean, so I think that it's so important for everyone to share these type of experiences and share what they learn, because for a lot of people out there, this is all they have. Because if
Yeah.
you do, like my very first veterinarian was very the opposite of open-minded. And
Same.
he was not going to be someone who recommended anything to me. So when my dog was sick, which was a different illness, he had digestive issues. I had social media. That's what
Yeah.
helped me.
Yeah.
And then meeting someone on the other side of the country that had a dog with similar symptoms, we're still friends today. And
That's amazing.
getting on the phone every week and going over what we learned and what we researched and this is what I'm going to do now and this is what's worked. And it's hilarious because, both of our dogs are now gone. But we still have that friendship. And
Of course, that was the dogs that brought you together.
yeah, and it's just like it was so much easier to have someone that I can bounce things off of who understood what I was going through. And we would
Right.
send videos to each other of this is what's happening and this is what this looks like.
That's amazing.
And
Not everybody's got that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of misinformation online, and you have to be very careful,
Yeah.
because
It's like,
it can really scare a person. And that's what I was trying to I mean, when my book was reviewed by 4 veterinarians for content to make sure that I was saying the right thing, I had everybody who was an expert in their space look at those chapters to make sure that I wasn't misspeaking. So I've really taken the most aggressive way possible to make sure that I'm not misinforming the public. That's important to me. Yeah. And then I'm not misrepresenting what we did. Right down to those doctors reviewing the notes that I put in the book to make sure that there wasn't a misprint. Right down to where that dog was adjusted. I put that all in there because I wanted to be sure that I was saying the right thing correctly. And I didn't go to vet school. And I wanted to make sure that when I was talking about the injury itself, I was speaking intelligently, that I was talking about the therapies, that they were correct. When I was talking about all those things, now the nutrition piece I could look at because I felt confident, but all of those things, I wanted somebody to say to me, nope, you could say this better. You could say this clearer. This doesn't make sense. Or you misinterpreted that, because I didn't go to vet school for 4 years. So I didn't, this is a space that I could not be wrong. I can't be wrong. Now there may be a misspelled word in there every now and again. My friends have pointed those out. We'll fix those in the next iterations, but gosh, you get blinded if you read it.
You thought you got it all.
You're like, oh yeah, you spelled this wrong. And I was like, great, super. I tried to catch all those, but yeah. You get too close to it, and that was the other thing that was on top of it. And me writing it, just having somebody with fresh eyes read it, because I was way too close to it after writing it for a year.
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't see trees through the forest.
I know that feeling. So tell us, where can we find the book and where can people learn more about working with you?
Yeah. So I have a business that I'm the founder of called Harness Canicular. And I have Facebook, and I, like everybody else, social media, keep track of. But I also have a website, and it's www.harnesscanicular.dog. And you can definitely find me there and send me an email or do whatever and see what I do. Alternatively than writing books for a year. This was a first. What else? What was the other thing that you asked me that I completely got off track?
Amazon. The book is on
Yeah,
Amazon.
the book's on Amazon.
Oh, the book is on Amazon. Yeah, okay. See, I can't even promote myself. The book is on Amazon, and it's available in a Kindle format if you prefer reading it digitally, and it's not in audio. Somebody asked me that, like, can I hear a book? I'm like, well, you can have somebody read it to you.
This podcast
to highlight things.
Yeah.
Flag pages.
And it's in paperback. And I have it here. I can hold on. I can show you. It's really kind of cool. It's neat to hold it, So I have it in paperback, and it did hit the #1 bestseller on Amazon. So yay. Thank you, everybody who helped me do that. It's also available at Barnes & Noble. So that's kind of fun. So I can't wait. I'm hopefully going to be posting that I walk into a Barnes & Noble and it's going to be there, and I'm going to freak out in public.
Yay!
And probably be asked to leave, but whatever.
That's okay.
Yeah, it'll be my first. I'll be like talking to strangers, like, you see this book? That's my legs right there. Those are my legs.
Yeah, just hold it randomly.
Nonchalantly, like the back of the book has my little picture. I'm like, oh, do you wait? But you know how, like, when you get engaged and all of a sudden your friends are engaged? Oh, I don't know what happens. Then, that's what I'm going to be like. I'm going to be like that person, But yeah, I mean, it's an inspirational story. It's not a sad story. I mean, there's 1 or 2 spots where you might be like, oh, but it's a very inspirational story. So if you just need an inspirational story, it'll do that for you.
Well, that's awesome. We will have links in the show notes so that everybody can find you and get a copy of the book. And if you know anybody in your life that has been through the CCL tear, remember this book is very important. Is a hill I will die on.
Yeah. And there's in the back of the book, which I did not mention, like anywhere else to anyone else, but in the back of the book, I put the references because it's all referenced.
Everything,
Yeah, because I want people, if they want to continue to read, then I want them to be able to read past me. I had to stop after a while because the book can't be like an academic reference book. But there are other things by chapter there are also at the end things that I did not, there's additional reading at the end. So things that I did not even reference in the book because they just didn't have a nice foothold. But if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, there's some additional reading back there that you can also do. So the whole idea of this is that you're going to have your journey, and this book is going to hopefully help you ask the right questions.
My nerdy little heart appreciates all of that.
Yes. Right. I mean, you can continue to go and go and go. I won't lie to you. At some point, you got to cut yourself off, otherwise people are not going to read it. You can use it as a wheel chalk to keep yourself from rolling in San Francisco. Yeah, so it's it. There's enough in there to be tangible though, like something you can apply.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. You're fabulous. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. I can't say thank you enough. Thanks for giving me your platform for a little bit here to help some folks.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye, guys.